So if you've taken an introductory statistics class, or for that matter, any number of other classes, then you might be familiar with measures of central tendency. That's just a fancy way of saying, well, mean, median, and mode, and sometimes we learn about them, but we don't necessarily cover the practicality of them. So in truth, there's a lot of interesting stuff in the world of statistics, and a lot of it's pretty complicated, but some of the most basic stuff is actually pretty informative, and it's useful particularly to think about the various measures of central tendency and what they tell us. Sometimes they don't tell us the same thing. They can tell us more about a distribution than we might think. So, in order to illustrate this, I thought, well, let's look at some movie review distributions. So, I'm looking at a movie called Wind River, which I just reviewed not too long ago, and which is out in theaters now. And we see that the Internet Movie Database tells us the arithmetic mean is 8, the median is 8, and if we look up here, this mode here, the one that gets the most votes or more votes than any other number is 8. So that's a pretty cool thing because mean, median, and mode really all line up. So whether we want to entertain outliers, which would be these 58 votes here down at 1, or not, the mean and the median are telling us the same information, and the mode is directly where the mean and the median are. So what that's telling us, in effect, is that 8 is a very good measurement for just if you don't know anything else about the person, what do you think the person is going to review it as? Well, we think it's going to be an 8. And that, by the way, was my rating for it also. That's kind of cool. Now, let's look at another movie. We'll look at the movie Serenity, which is one of my favorites, which has considerably more reviews. And sadly, we'll never get a sequel, it seems. So we see here that the arithmetic mean is 8.2, but the median is 8. So what that tells us, and we can see that reflected up top here, is that there's a tail, there's a little bit more of a bulk of data at the high amount that's pushing that mean up, right? Because we get a whole lot of people like me who really like it. But, if we just were to line up everybody, the median would be 8. Now, granted, the median is going to be either an integer or zero point 0.5 with an integer. Um, so it's actually still closest to 8, or 8.2, I should say. But the fact that it falls to the left and not the right is still informative. Now, the interesting thing about this is you look at this and say, well, what's the most useful statistic out of the bunch? Because now, unlike Wind River, these statistics are actually telling us different things. The mode is 10. The arithmetic mean is 8.2. The median is 8. Now, because, most people like it, um, but there's a reasonably high chance that if you see it, you'll absolutely love it because 28% of people just absolutely love it. They give it 10 out of 10. So maybe, 8, maybe 8 in particular, the median, while it's a robust statistic, it doesn't necessarily tell us that a whole heck of a lot of people really love it. So even though the median is the same as Wind River, the shape of the distribution is different, and we may want our measure of central tendency to reflect where a whole lot of the distribution is. A whole heck of a lot of the distribution is in 8, 9, 10, right? And so that may actually be more informative. Let's look at another one of them. Obviously, choosing my choices non-randomly. Um, Stranger Things. So we see here the arithmetic mean is 9. The median is 9. We also see that the mode, again, is 10. 42.2%, almost half. A little bit under half, but almost half of people who see Stranger Things absolutely love it. I was 10. So what that says is, again, do we want the median of 9? Well, maybe. But you may think, well, maybe the central tendency measurement that is most useful in this case is the mode, because this has a whole heck of a lot of data, 74.3%. So we're basically three-fourths of the data are 9 or 10. Let's look at another one. Let's look at one maybe that is in the opposite direction. Um, Saving Christmas, not one of the better reviewed movies on Internet Movie Database. So the average is 1.6 out of 10. Now here's 78% of reviewers give it a 1. And then we have a subset that gives it a 10. So consider that the arithmetic mean is 2.6, but that's actually a pretty useless statistic in this case because we have the majority, basically three-fourths, give it the lowest possible rating, and then 15% give it the highest possible rating. In between, I count maybe 5% total. What that says is there are very, very few people in between, and the mean in this case is actually not giving us useful information. The median is 1, that gives us something useful, and the mode again is 1. That in this case, those two are actually, in my opinion at least, useful bits of information, and the mean not so much. Whereas in our prior case, I would contend that mode and then mean are actually probably a little bit more informative about what the distribution is. And we're not getting into higher moments, the variance or the skewness or the kurtosis, but just the first moment alone and comparing the measures of the central tendency, even without considering the higher moments, actually still gives us a bit of an indication of what the distribution is. Even if we didn't see this actual breakdown, and even if we were only verbally told mean, median, and mode, we would have at least a little bit of information. Let's look at one more. Again, my choices are not random. Minority Report, another movie that I really like, by now gives you an indication of my genre preferences. Um, Overall, positive but not overwhelming, unlike some of the other movies. Um, we see here that the arithmetic mean is 7.7, the median is 8. So this is the opposite of Serenity. The mean in this case is actually below the median. And what we see here is that a whole lot of people give it 8. The median in this case corresponds to the mode. Um, and in general, the bulk of our data is around 9 to 7. So again, you could think, okay, what's the most useful information? Well, again, here I'd actually say it's probably the mode. It's probably not the mean or the median. I would say in this case, the mode probably tells us the most, and then the median, and then the mean. The mean is being dragged down because we have um, a bit more down on the lower side, but those are still a fairly small or minority as opposed to Minority Report. Um, so in general, it's useful to take these moments, to take the first moment in particular, start with that, consider the measurements of central tendency, and think about what that tells us. And that can tell us very useful things in terms of will we or will we not like something, and which one is the most useful in shaping that.